In 1519, the most powerful crown in Europe was for sale. The throne of the Holy Roman Emperor. This was no ordinary title. The emperor ruled a vast political network of kingdoms, duchies, and cities stretching across Central Europe. Whoever wore that crown could influence the fate of millions. Kings wanted it. Princes fought for influence. Armies prepared for war. The election of a new emperor could shift the balance of power across the entire continent. But the man who would ultimately decide the outcome did not ride into battle. He did not command armies. He did not wear a crown. Instead, he controlled something far more powerful: money. Behind closed doors, one banker quietly transferred more than 850,000 florins, a staggering fortune in the early 16th century, to secure the election of a new emperor. That banker was Jakob Fugger, a merchant's son from Augsburg who would rise to become the richest man in Europe. His wealth rivaled entire kingdoms. His loans financed emperors. And his financial deals would indirectly help ignite one of the most dramatic revolutions in European history, the Protestant Reformation. But Jakob Fugger was not born powerful. In fact, he wasn't even supposed to run the family business. To understand how he became the banker who shaped empires, we have to start at the beginning. Jakob Fugger was born on March 6, 1459, in Augsburg. At the time, Augsburg was one of the richest commercial cities in Europe. Located along major trade routes, it connected merchants from Italy, Germany, and Northern Europe. Its markets were filled with cloth, spices, metal goods, and luxury items from distant lands. Money flowed through Augsburg constantly. And the Fugger family had already built a respectable fortune within this bustling economy. Jakob's father, Jakob Fugger the Elder, was a successful textile merchant who specialized in producing fustian cloth, a durable fabric that was extremely popular across Europe. The Fugger household was prosperous, but Jakob's position in the family made his future uncertain. He was the 10th of 11 children. In medieval Europe, inheritance usually went to the eldest sons. Younger sons often had to find entirely different careers. Some joined the military. Others entered religious life. Jakob was originally destined for the church. As a young boy, he studied Latin, scripture, and theology, preparing for a career as a clergyman. For several years, it seemed certain that Jakob Fugger would spend his life serving the church rather than building a financial empire. But history often turns on unexpected moments. In 1469, Jakob's father died. Control of the Fugger business passed to Jakob's older brothers. And suddenly, Jakob's future changed. Instead of joining the clergy, he entered the family trade. At the time, no one in Augsburg could have guessed what this decision would lead to. Because the quiet boy who had once studied theology would soon reshape the financial systems of Europe. But first, Jakob Fugger needed to learn how money truly worked. And the best place to learn that lesson was the greatest commercial city of the time. In the early 1470s, Jakob was sent south to the powerful maritime republic of Venice. Venice was one of the most extraordinary cities in the world. Its merchant fleets dominated Mediterranean trade. Its ships traveled to the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. Markets overflowed with exotic goods, silk from China, spices from India, and precious metals from Africa. But the true genius of Venice was not just trade, it was finance. Venetian bankers had created advanced financial systems that revolutionized commerce. They used credit networks that allowed merchants to borrow large sums of money. They developed bills of exchange, which allowed payments to be made across long distances without physically moving gold. And they operated international banking networks connecting cities across Europe. For the first time in history, merchants could move enormous amounts of money across the continent without carrying a single coin. In Venice, Jakob discovered a dangerous truth. Whoever controlled credit could control kings. Jakob Fugger spent 5 years in Venice, studying these innovations. While others focused on buying and selling goods, Jakob focused on understanding how money flowed. He realized something that many merchants overlooked. The real power in Europe did not come from selling products. It came from controlling credit. If kings needed money to wage wars, then the banker who provided that money could influence the fate of kingdoms. This insight would define Jakob Fugger's entire career. When he returned to Augsburg around 1478, he brought back far more than trading experience. He brought back a revolutionary financial strategy. But Jakob didn't want to simply lend money. He wanted control over the very resources that powered Europe's economy. During the 1480s, Jakob officially joined the Fugger family company. At first, the business continued trading textiles. But Jakob had much bigger ambitions. Europe's growing economy depended heavily on silver and copper. Silver was used to mint coins. Copper was essential for weapons, tools, and trade goods. Without these metals, the European economy could not function. But by the late 15th century, many mines were struggling to produce enough metal. Europe faced a serious shortage of currency. Jakob Fugger saw an opportunity. If he could control the production of silver and copper, he could control the foundation of Europe's financial system. In 1487, Jakob made a bold move. He struck a deal with Sigismund, Archduke of Austria, who controlled the rich mining region of Tyrol. Sigismund had serious financial problems. He needed money urgently. Jakob offered loans. In exchange, the Fugger company gained control over important silver mines. Soon afterward, Jakob expanded into the enormous copper mines of Hungary. Instead of simply trading metals, the Fugger company now controlled the mines themselves. Production exploded. Within a few years, Fugger mines supplied a massive portion of Europe's copper. Their metal was exported across the continent and shipped to distant markets. Fugger copper even reached India and China through global trade routes. Jakob Fugger had effectively built a continental mining empire. His fortune grew rapidly, but his ambitions were even larger. Because the next step was not controlling metals, it was controlling kings. During the 1490s, Jakob Fugger began financing the ambitions of Maximilian I. Maximilian was charismatic and ambitious. He dreamed of expanding Habsburg power across Europe. But warfare required enormous resources. Armies needed salaries, weapons required metal, campaigns required supplies and logistics. And emperors often ran out of money. That is where Jakob Fugger entered the picture. Through a series of loans, the Fugger Bank became Maximilian's financial backbone. Without Fugger funding, many of the emperor's campaigns might never have happened. In return, Jakob received extraordinary privileges. Mining monopolies, trade advantages, and powerful political protection. By the early 1500s, the Fugger banking house had become the most influential financial institution in Europe. Jakob Fugger controlled wealth equal to nearly 2% of Europe's entire economic output. In modern terms, that would equal hundreds of billions of dollars, making him wealthier than many of the richest billionaires in modern history. But his greatest act of influence was still coming. Because in 1519, the fate of an empire would depend on his money. On January 12, 1519, Maximilian I died. The imperial throne was empty. Several rulers competed for the crown. The most powerful candidate was Charles V, ruler of Spain and vast Habsburg territories. But the emperor was not chosen by inheritance. He was elected by 7 powerful prince-electors. Winning their support required persuasion. And persuasion required enormous amounts of money. Charles turned to Jakob Fugger. The Fugger Bank financed the campaign with over 850,000 florins. Gold flowed to the electors, deals were negotiated, political alliances formed. And on June 28, 1519, Charles V was elected Holy Roman Emperor. Behind that victory stood Jakob Fugger. A banker had effectively shaped the leadership of Europe. But Fugger's financial system would soon trigger consequences he never intended. Around 1515, a powerful church leader named Albert of Brandenburg needed a large loan. He wanted to hold multiple church offices at once. But the Roman Catholic Church required massive payments for such privileges. Albert borrowed the money from Jakob Fugger. To repay the debt, indulgences were sold across Germany. These indulgences promised forgiveness of sins in exchange for money. But this practice outraged a monk named Martin Luther. On October 31, 1517, Luther published his 95 Theses. His protest spread rapidly across Europe. Soon the continent was engulfed in the Protestant Reformation, a religious revolution that would divide Christianity for centuries. Indirectly, Jakob Fugger's financial system had helped ignite it. Despite his enormous wealth, Jakob also understood the value of legacy. In 1516, he founded a housing project in Augsburg called the Fuggerei. It was designed for poor citizens. Residents paid only 1 Rheinischer Gulden per year. The community included houses, gardens, and a church. Amazingly, the Fuggerei still exists today. It remains the oldest social housing complex in the world. Even now, residents pay only symbolic rent. Jakob Fugger's legacy continues nearly 5 centuries later. By the 1520s, Jakob Fugger's influence stretched across Europe. But even the richest banker could not escape time. On December 30th, 1525, Jakob Fugger died in Augsburg at the age of 66. With no children of his own, his vast fortune and business empire passed to the next generation of the Fugger family. Jakob Fugger never wore a crown, but when emperors needed power, they came to his bank.